All right, everyone. Welcome to the developer meeting. This is a bit of a strange one for us. We usually do these on Discord. For those of you that haven't come to one, we'll be going through each of the development teams plus the community team. Well, actually, I don't think we have anything for this one, but that's okay. And just going and talking about what we've been up to and what we're going to be doing next, hopefully. So the first team on my list, I believe, is Build Tools. So that will be Tibbs. How you doing, Tibbs?
Hey.
All yours. What have you been up to?
The current state, well, we've been a bit busy recently, but we've been merging upstream a lot, including the latest merge, which was a fix for Minecraft's recent client-server difference, where libraries were required to be crossed over. It's been a lot of upstream merges, a lot of fixes of tests. I'm going to have the obligatory mention of the hashed PR, which is currently able to output hashed mappings on built jars. However, it's going to wait for hashed support on loader to actually be considered for merge, I believe. But yeah, short and sweet little build tools section.
That's good. That's good. Trucking along is always great to hear. Cheater, you're up for Chasm, I believe.
Hello, yes, that's me.
Come on down.
Chasm. I'm Cheater, I'm here for Chasm. Chasm has been busy, but also not busy recently. So we've done we've had a lot of discussions. We now have every 2 weeks, besides the regular dev meeting, we have a Chasm team internal meeting. And it's really helpful. We get to discuss a lot of implementation details that we don't get to talk about otherwise. For example, recently we've been talking about how we can handle remapping of transformers, and I think we've got a pretty good solution to that. It's also related to how we can get configs working inside of Chasm. So that's really exciting. Actual implementation work, I merged a small PR.
Oh, I think we may have lost Cheater. Oh, there we go.
Nope, I'm still here. I just need to... My pink is just getting tired.
You're fine.
I merged a small PR, nothing big, but I'm trying to get used to doing everything via PRs so that we can start proper versioning at some point in the future. The biggest news in Chasm, though, is that we are having a presentation directly after the dev meeting, or depending on how long this takes. We have a presentation in exactly 1 hour, just under 1 hour. And everyone who's interested in Chasm, I would encourage you to come there and listen to that, because we can go into much more detail about the entire project.
All right, fabulous. Thanks for that. That'll be an interesting presentation if anyone's interested in the technology side of Quilt. Should be interesting. Anyway, I'll be around for it too. I'll be listening in. Don't you worry about that. Okay, decompilers. Super, I believe that's you.
Hi. Yeah. Recently we haven't been working on Quilt Flower specifically as much. We've been working on a fuzzer tool to generate Java code randomly to test Quilt Flower against. And honestly, it's been a tremendous success so far. We found something like 20, 30 different bugs. And we're in the effort of cataloging all of them and like improving the fuzzer and wondering why 80% of the bugs are in the finally processing code. And yeah, just been an effort. It's been going along.
Excellent. Thanks for that.
That's about it.
That's great. Yeah, decompilers is probably one of my favorite teams. We've had you working on Quilt Flower for God knows how long, and it's been fantastic. So thanks for your work there.
I think it's been a year at this point.
Yeah, it has, hasn't it? It must be. All right. Alex, wherever you are Loader, right?
Yes. Hello. So Loader has had a bunch of bug fixes in 0.17. And we're also working on, Glitch is working on exposing more of Fabric Loader's internals. So hopefully we can sort of reduce the list of mods that work on Fabric but not on Quilt. So that'd be good. And then we've also got Haven King with a config API that's just gone into Loader for 0.17. So that's amazing because we can get every single mod hopefully using the same config API, and they'll all be using the same file format, and we can get. It's not done, but hopefully we can get like a config GUI that just works for everything. Would be really good. Basically, the config API exists. Please use it. That's all.
I think there's a mod in the pack that's using it already, Jamtastic, which is great to see. So it is definitely working. There's been some great work on that.
That's good. That was quick.
It was quick. Thanks, Alex. Octal, Protfox, you are up for the Kotlin team, I believe. Brand new team.
All right, so we've had a very productive 4 days.
Yeah, something like that.
Since we started, there have been 6 pull requests open and 2 merged, which means that there's one that's already entered final comment period, which is the registration DSL, which is a way to register stuff with any registry, third party or not, easier and much more cleaner. So there's also a there's also a pull request open by Silver for vector math operators.
Alrighty.
And that's about it.
Fabulous. Thanks for that, Octal. Emma, would you like to talk for mappings? I think Emma's crashed.
Uh-oh. A whopping 1 frame per second.
Oh, are you... Oh, sorry about that. Set your render distance down. That might help. There's a lot of people here.
My render distance is 2.
Oh, that's no good. That's okay. We can skip if you like.
Well, since voice seems to still be working, the only thing that Mapping's team really has is to... we updated to 1.19 pretty well. And yeah, that's basically it.
Cool. That's good stuff. Alrighty, the next team is QSL, so that must be Lambdora.
Oh damn, already.
We always get through it faster than we think, don't we?
Yeah, always. QSL is always the one taking the longest for some reason. So about QSL, it's been 3 weeks since the last time I talked about it, I think. So what happened since we updated to 1.19? Painfully, since due to unfortunate due to some unfortunate events, some of the QSL maintainers couldn't update it while the snapshot cycle was happening because there was
wait. I just woke up.
Because there was because we switched the code base to Quilt loader, and that took quite a while, and a lot of stuff happened with that. So 1.19 was kind of not really happening at that time, which was quite a big mistake because skipping snapshots made updating much harder. But I had a big good sprint of updating QSL recently, where I tried to do incrementally with every snapshot because that makes stuff much easier when you have to deal with some small changes and not big changes at once. But with that, we've got new pull requests and
now we just float above the main stage.
pull requests. One of the thing with the 1.19 update is some issues have been made a bit more critical.
Excuse me.
I'm talking mostly about
I can't get
resource.
into stage.
I'm talking mostly about resource loader because
You're stuck.
the issue with resource loader is
No, I can't go.
is
I
the
can't
Great
even go
Wall
through the
screen
Done. Try it now.
and dedicated
Okay.
servers, because the thing is
Okay, thanks.
when you load when you create a new world, the game creates a data pack setting which says what is enabled or not, and there's the dynamic registries which holds all the biomes and stuff, and the issue with that is by default the game assumes that it's not modified, and so it doesn't load the new JSON entries from the mods, so that had to be fixed. And when I fixed that, I noticed more issues, which also got fixed. Then we got some changes in the repository with code owners now, so it makes much clearer who can review what, and when a review is done by a QSL team member. There has been some ports. There have been the Quilt biomes modifications API port, which is quite a big module and a very important one. There will be improvements to it soon. For example, we plan to add methods to check if a feature exists or not, so it's easier to register. Because currently, if you try to register something that doesn't exist, it will crash. So having a way to check will be quite good. Then we got a lot of registry attachment API fixes, because that module is a big one too, but a very, very practical one. It will be very useful and it will be very powerful, and hopefully now it will be much stable too. Then we have some new pull requests. There's a small one that should get merged today about overriding the experimental warning screen, which happens if you try to create or open a world that has like JSON biomes and stuff. It's quite an inconvenience and not really useful and modded to warn about it, because you're already running something potentially very unstable, so what's more or less? And I see some stuff that I haven't looked really too much into it, but there's something about item content registries for fuel and composting, which I think, it does use the registry entry attachment API, which shows how much that will be powerful. And I don't think there's much more to say specifically to that. I think it's all I had to say.
That's great. Thanks for that, Aurora.
It's been a lot.
It's been a lot. Mind you, QSL is always quite busy. That's great. Thanks for that. The last team on my list is the Quilt Fabric API team, which I have Emma down for again. Are you okay to chat a little bit about that?
Yes, I have 11 frames per second now.
Oh, fabulous.
So, the Quilted Fabric API has been very busy, mostly due to Ennui, who has been very, very busy with updating to 1.19. And I believe there was a release just today for Quilted Fabric API for 1.19. So that is very exciting. There are a few other fixes that I don't really have the full details about, but there are fixes nonetheless. And yeah, I feel like there's probably more to say, but I don't really remember.
That's totally fine. Thanks, Emma.
So 1.19, yay.
Yay. Yeah, Quilted Fabric API is a pretty important mod. Pretty much any fabric mod in this mod pack or otherwise is using it in some way indirectly via Fabric API. All right, thank you. So that's the first part of the meeting. We always go through each team that's got something to say. And the next thing we have is the Q&A. Now, we have a couple ways of doing this. There were 2 forms set up before the con. We got a few questions via those, so we're going to go through those first. However, if any of you have any questions as well, you'll notice that there's a book on either side of the stage here. You can grab a book, write a short question in it, and sign it, and then hold on to it, and we'll collect them off you a little bit later, okay? Now then, let's have a look through our questions here. I'm going to be putting the questions up on the screen, so if you wouldn't mind avoiding standing in front of it, that'd be great. Now then. So the first question we got was, where will Quilt mods be hosted? Now, I imagine a lot of you already have the answer to this one, but we've already got support on CurseForge and Modrinth. We're not planning on our own platform for this. Some people were asking about that. But yeah, CurseForge, Modrinth, and pretty much anywhere else you usually get your mods, you'll get them from there. Now then, let's have a look at these. All right, QSL, you have a question mark down here. This one, why would a player want to use Quilt? Or more specifically, what's the appeal of Quilt over other mod loaders? I have QSL marked down for this. Are you okay for that one?
Maybe.
Someone claimed it as QSL. I'm not sure.
Oh, I might have confused it. Oh, it's fine. It's fine.
That's all right. You know the answer anyway. Go for it.
Yeah. Basically, there's Quilt is a group of projects, so some of the projects will advantage indeed players. For example, there's a goal of better compatibility with mods. For example, in QSL, it will translate into something to help mods to interact between each other. So, for example, if someone registers a new wood type, it will try to make it available to the other mods, so the other mods can create new game objects based on that. That will be quite a big API, and it will, by making it easier for developers to use it, it will make in consequence also make it better for the player. Then there's the idea of library downloading. That's kind of the follow-up of what Fabric did, because a long time ago there was a lot of modern name libraries and stuff. That was a bit of a pain because you had to download it separately from the mods that depended on it. Then Fabric came and iterated on that with the jar and jar system, so mods could bundle libraries. And the idea is now to make it so we can automatically download them at startup if needed. There's still a lot of stuff to figure out about that to make it good for everyone and to compromise. But that's one of the goals. The other goal is to have better community spaces, lots of other stuff after the beta, and QSL has a little bit the goals too. It's expanding a little bit beyond the API part because we currently have a pull request about key bindings API. We all know that keybinds are a bit of pain, especially in modded, because a lot of people will try to use keybinds, and it will be conflict hell, and you already can see it in this very mod pack. But the API wants to come with more than just API. It wants to come with stuff useful for you players. For example, there should be a way to do key coding, so you can bind a keybind to actually multiple keys. So like if you want something to be Control A, it will be Control A, and not just A. And there should also be more better conflict indications and stuff. So that will be really nice. Before I mentioned the experimental warning screen being gone, that's also something that will make it better for players, because not having to click a stupid warning every time you open a modded world is much better. And yeah, so there's a lot of goals. I can't list all of them because there's some stuff we already find it later that will make everyone's life easier. But yeah, we plan on making stuff much easier and much more comfortable to use.
Excellent. That's a great answer, Aura. Thanks for that. The next question I have here. Will there be a guide for reporting from Forge? Nobody claimed this question. We don't really know for sure what's going to end up. What I can say is that we just set up our developer wiki, I think, wasn't that yesterday? Yeah. Or the day before, and we're going to get that filled out over time. Now, it's hard to say whether we're going to end up specifically with that exact guide, but certainly if somebody wants to write one, you can pull request it and it'll get up there. But we'll certainly have guides to writing mods, so I don't see why there can't be anything about porting in there either.
What I will say is it might not be a Quilt team member that will write it, I think. Because there's, I think, quite a good chunk of us that don't really know that well Forge. And if you intersect that with the amount of people that knows how to write guides, it becomes a bit harder.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a Quilt. That's the idea with the PRs, really. It doesn't have to be one of us that writes the guide. Anyone that knows what they're doing is able to via pull request. Oh boy, Leo's here. Hi, Leo. This is a pretty popular question. When will you drop Fabric support? The short answer is we're not really planning to. We're going to try and maintain it for as long as we possibly can. There is a common misconception that we're planning on dropping it at some point. We're only going to do that if it becomes impossible for us to maintain it along with everything else. And even then, if that happens, we'll be gifting it to a community group and we'll be helping them to maintain it on their own. So it's definitely not going anywhere for quite a while. I think Cheater got booted. Oh no, Cheater's there. Hi, Cheater. Will Chasm support Mixin?
Yes.
There you go.
Bit of a better explanation. Chasm is not meant to replace Mixin. It's more like a replacement for ASM itself. Mixin was always planned, and if you want to hear more details about it, I remind you again that we have keynotes about Chasm after this.
Yeah, just to add to that, that Mixin will. One way to think of it is that the implementation of Mixin will be replaced, but not the API.
Yeah, so it'll still work basically the same way.
There are some details in there are some implementation differences that are inevitable, but nothing that most people will care about. And if you do care about, then again, come ask us at the keynote.
Absolutely. Thank you. And get this one a fair bit too. Will you have an official Matrix channel? No, we did try it. It was basically impossible for us to moderate properly, especially given how targeted Quilt is by trolls and the like. We do have a forum though, if anyone wants an alternative, and I've been looking at other platforms. But for now, it's just Discord and the forum. If Matrix becomes feasible later, maybe we'll look at it again. But for now, it's really just not possible. All right, Aurora, I think I got one for you here.
Oh.
Why would a modder want to use Quilt?
That's where some of the stuff I already said will intersect with what I will say here. But overall, first of it, we intend to have better APIs. Ultimately, it will be modders. We will be the judge of that. But we really hope that we will achieve that. And we also, while we are a fork, we are taking a lot of the old ideas and we are kind of mixing them and working them in new ways to make them maybe more comfortable to use for modders and stuff. For example, the stuff I talked about, the wood types, if you have an API for it, it will be much easier to support that, and it will reduce a lot the demand from players who will ask for compatibility because, well, the API will help you with that in a very easy way. Then there's the whole community approach of things that would help. Then we have Chasm, which will be really, really cool because it will, because to be honest, and we cannot just deny that, mixin is painful to use in some cases because it doesn't support everything. It's a good temporary solution, but it shouldn't become permanent, and Chasm will in the backend of things solve a lot of issues so we can get better APIs down the line. The loader plugins also will be nice because it will allow for some stuff to be if you need to, like, for example, the fabric mods loading will get switched to a loader plugin once that's implemented, instead of it being, in quotes, hard-coded into the loader. And we have a config system. You have a config API directly into the loader. Yoo-hoo! Which is quite a very change of landscape for some. So yeah, what do I mean by config API? It doesn't cover GUI stuff though. That might come in QSL, but for modders, there's kind of a centralized way of doing configs now, which is quite something requested a lot. I'm not the one to ask about Fluid API because I see some people say, asking about it, but I'm not the one to ask because honestly, I'm one of the people that stays way far from fluids because they scare me a lot.
The F word, as Sassion is saying, yeah.
I saw someone mention recipe API. Yeah, we will get some stuff for recipes because honestly, recipes are a bit weird. Because well, first of all, we have a recipe API that allows to register new recipes and modify them without going through JSON, which can be really useful for some mods that rely on runtime registry analysis, which is something we want to encourage to get more compatibility. So of course, for that we need APIs to help with that. And of course, we might we also want to get a lot of good stuff. I see people mention energy APIs. That's not true. There might be tools to help make energy APIs, but there won't be official energy APIs. And if you ask why, it's because we don't want to make it to get everyone into a closed mindset about energies. Because first of all, energies require balance, and if you get one centralized energy API, others will be pressured into using it. And if your mod isn't intended to be compatible on an energy-wise with other mods, then it will cause issues and stuff. So, yeah. But
Excellent.
otherwise, yeah, a lot of new APIs that should help and make a lot of stuff easier to do.
All right. Thank you for that. I think I actually have another one for you. I'm sorry. This question is asking, why did we re-implement FAPI instead of directly building on top of it? I mean, you kind of answered it already, but go for it.
The answer is because extending Fabric API is not easy. If we start, because ultimately we will need to hook into internals to extend some APIs, and that will lead to disaster. And I think you already have seen some parts of that disaster that could have happened with two mods that used a version of QSL that was available in Fabric instead of Quilt. And if you look around, you will see that there was lots and lots and lots of bug reports about that because of some internals that have changed. We relied on. Yes, so that would have been it would have limited new APIs in some ways, because if you make a new API that requires change in another module, and you're still bound to Fabric API, we wouldn't be able to extend properly. It would have resulted in massive hacks, and I think globally we could say that ergonomics for the modders wouldn't have been great. So it's not like we have entry through into the bin. We still have some parts of Fabric API modules, because some of them are actually very good and don't require much change. Like the Quilt Biomes Modifications API is a really good module. It does require some tweaking, but not much. So there's some stuff we will be able to just port. Some other stuff will need much bigger rework. For example, in Resource Loader, there has been quite a lot of internal changes that couldn't have been possible if we based off Fabric API. It's not like either we prevent people from using Fabric APIs because, well, there's scripted Fabric API that handles that jobs. So it's not like we're still starting from scratch. It's a bit of a reset without being a reset.
That's a good way of putting it.
So yeah, I think.
I think that was a good answer.
Yeah.
Thank you. Will there be a tutorial to bring in new modders? I think I should have skipped this one because we've kind of already answered it. We don't know. We do have a YouTube channel. We're not 100% sure what we're going to do with it yet. It would be interesting to see someone come up with a tutorial, but you got to remember that there's only so many of us and we only have so much time, so we'll see. But it would be nice to have at least a written tutorial on the wiki. I'm pretty sure we'll have something for that because you have to get started somehow.
Yeah, I think that will be a thing for sure in a written form. Video form, the issue with videos is they get obsolete very, very quickly.
Hmm. That's true. But the wiki is set up such that it's kind of a slightly janky mess by Oro, but it works really well. It basically works by compiling all of the code examples. So if those don't compile, they never make it to the wiki in the first place. So that should hopefully help with the bit rot problem, but we will see.
Also regarding the tutorials on YouTube, what could be done is there could be a live stream, and then you can upload the VODs to YouTube or something similar to that.
Yeah, of course. Well, we'll see what happens. It's still a bit soon, but we'll get there. Ah, yes. Can I heads up? No. Are you planning any other events after BlanketCon? Good question. We're definitely thinking about the next one already. Hello, South. Uh, we don't really know exactly what is going to happen in the future. Obviously, we're still in the middle of this event, so it's kind of the wrong time to be thinking about further events, but we will definitely have more stuff. We do have an events team after all, so there is going to be more stuff happening. Now, before I read the last question, for those of you that have written questions on books, I'm going to press this button over here. When these come up, you'll see that there's a hopper inside them. Go ahead and drop the book into the hopper. And while you all do that...
That's a lot of questions.
That's all right. Where do you see Quilt in a year? And this was kind of aimed at the entire team, but I feel like if we all go through this, we'll be here all night. Does anyone want to take a stab at it?
I could take a stab from a cursor perspective.
Sure.
Maybe mappings too. I would say that mappings-wise, it would still could mappings would still be here. I don't think that would go anywhere. But I think the naming quality should be still pretty consistent. We should cover a bit more than what we have covered already. For cursor, that's hard to answer actually, but I think we will start to see a lot of more interesting APIs too. I think in a year we will already have a lot of data-driven related APIs merged in. Maybe we would have registry sync too, because that's not a thing currently, but in a year it will definitely be there. There's already a pull request on them, so yeah.
Fabulous. I mean, yeah, obviously we're still planning on being here, so I truncated this question massively, just to fit it onto the screen. But another part of the question was whether we see Quilt as becoming a dominant loader over, say, Fabric. I think this is kind of the wrong question to ask. Each loader exists to do its own thing in its own way, and we're not really planning on trying to push those loaders down or anything like that. I mean, sure, maybe we'll get popular, maybe we won't, but I don't think the other loaders are going anywhere anytime soon.
It's kind of the I exist thing.
Yeah. Does anyone else want to add anything to that question? Nope, sounds good. Alrighty. Yeah, we've certainly got a few questions in. I can't see how many, so we'll see how far through we get. I will be stopping maybe 5 minutes before the next presentation, just so that we can have a break. But we'll get through as many as we can. I don't know if this will fit on the screen. Yeah, I didn't think so. Would you rather fight 100 tiny potato-sized mbembes or one mbembe-sized tiny potato, Asikirka? This is about potatoes. I wonder who should answer this one, huh? Huh? Huh, potato boy?
What is that?
If you haven't seen it, it's basically a dinosaur.
Okay. Oh.
If it's the size of a dinosaur, then wouldn't it not be a tiny potato anymore?
I think I will find the big potato.
You think so? That's fair.
Where's the panel?
All right, here's a
I'm
serious
at the
question.
I mean, it's a potato, so you can just eat you can eat the potato.
Thanks, Pat Box. Let's
The
leave that
potato
here.
is too
Okay.
cute, you cannot take it.
Copy Girl asks, why have the config API be part of the loader instead of QSL? I can actually answer this one. The main reason is because loader plugins might want to use it. Aurora touched on loader plugins earlier. They're basically intended to be a way for mods to affect how the loader works, how it loads mods, and even load other types of mods if wanted. So they are likely to want configuration as well. Can you all put your grapples down, please? Thanks. And that's why it's there, really. That's the main reason.
Say that the config API as it is very abstracted from the game, so it being part of loader is quite possible and makes stuff easier, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that as well. It's not just plugins that could possibly use it. So as Lama said, as Aurora said,
Test.
Loader is game
I hear that.
agnostic as well in principle. So other games could use the same config API, so it wouldn't need to be reinvented. The other thing is that Chasm is probably at least able to use the same config files this way. There's a bunch of other reasons, like Loader is responsible for managing directories. It's not really, it shouldn't really be too much of the mod's responsibilities to work with the file system and stuff. Also,
Yeah,
I think it's worth
absolutely.
noting that while the config API is in Loader, there will need to be additional systems in other mods or in QSL, such as syncing configs from a server to the client, which cannot be done game agnostic, and also a config screen, if we get to that.
Okay, cool. Thank you. This is a jokey question, but I think we have an actual answer to it. Why isn't everything written in Kotlin?
Can I answer?
Yes, of course.
Because a lot of people don't know Kotlin, may not want to learn Kotlin, and I will say that if stuff is written in Kotlin, while you could say that you can use it in Java, we already can see it with the Kotlin team. Stuff written in Java won't always be perfect for Kotlin, and the inverse is also very true. So, so there's also a thing is, it might be a bit bold for me to say that, but I think it's fair to say that there's less Kotlin modders than Java modders. So that would make contributing much harder too, in some ways.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Ultimately, familiarity with the language is very important, and most modders know Java and not Kotlin, so. This was a surprisingly long question. I don't think I got the whole question, Copy Girl, but we'll try to answer it. Will there be a first-class material API, for example, for automatic generation of shapes?
Of shapes?
That's what it said. Maybe you could clarify, Coffee?
Yeah, blocks
because...
or something, probably. Or like fences, I'm guessing.
Because we do have a material API to be... We have a material API planned, and we have actually a thread in Discord about it. Block shapes like stairs and... I'm not really sure what that really means.
You mean like tool materials?
Because the idea of a possible material API is if I take, for example, wood, we have the log, the plank. We also have, for example, I will take an actual modded example here, if I can find it quickly. For example, we have a log, we have a plank, and we have a bench. And the idea is, it's a bit difficult to explain, to be honest, because there's a lot of variables to take into account. Because, for example, a wood type cannot be entirely described by just its log, because some wood types won't have a log, and other stuff like that. But the idea is you have some kind of block family. Like, you could have a spruce family, and the idea is with your mod you can register a new component that uses the family. And for example, here there's a wood type family and stuff. The idea is the mod itself defines the shape, and what it's given is the materials that the shape can be in. So I think that's a way to explain it. Because and when you define a new material, like a new wood type, the idea is for like stairs and stuff, you're the one who would define them because it's vanilla stuff. But modern content is defined by other mods. So yeah, the idea is to have access to assets too from the material API. So, for example, this bench uses the log texture for the little legs and the plank texture. So the idea of the API is to give ways to generate that model. And for example, if there's no logs, ask something else to replace it. For example, I don't think I will take the time to search it because there's a lot of mods and it's lagging, so I cannot really browse the creative inventory. But the idea is, yeah, if you define a new material, you define the vanilla shapes. Like, there might be tools to make it much easier and a bit more automatic. And for new shapes, it will be a mod that defines and iterates through the materials.
I think the answer was really good. And there's been a clarification again on the question, but I want to add here, it's a fairly big question with fairly long answers, and I would recommend to check out the Discord. You can have more detailed and longer discussions in there, because the time on stage is not that much longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That thing.
We've only got about 5 minutes now, so.
There's a material API thread in the QSU, I think, either general or data channel on Discord. So if there's further question, I think that it can be discussed lengthily there.
Cool, thank you. Alrighty. The more features you add to the core API, the harder it gets to maintain or update. How do you strike that balance?
Oh. Question: why am I the only core team member here? Because I really need help.
It's okay. We can skip over it if you're not sure how to answer it.
I could probably answer it by saying that we're a long, long way off Forge, and Forge still manages one-day updates.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah, and even then, if you take a look at the core API, the base module practically doesn't need updating most of the time. Resource loaders sometimes break, but that's because Mojang likes to change stuff there. Lifecycle events don't seem to be changing that much. Networking hasn't changed at all for a while. And I think there's the registry one, but I don't think Mojang will rework registries every update. Maybe every .2 update, but not every update. So I think the main point is we are still going to keep the core API minimal because it's the core API, and the core API is intended to be installed by default with the record instances. So yeah, we don't want to make it too big either. But it's basically the most essential stuff for modding of any kind.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that all makes sense to me. I'm just going to move on quickly because we're short on time. All right. Do you have plans to support other mod loaders in Quilt, like Forge or Rift? No, we don't. Loader plugins will make it possible for other people to basically add that support to Quilt themselves, but we don't have any plans for it. This takes ages to open, sorry. Well, we have the same issues with conflicts with QSL and other mods via Chasm. Cheater, I believe half of the point of Chasm was to really help deal with the conflicts, right?
I think this question is very broad. I'm not exactly sure which issues we're talking about. But the point of Chasm is to make it easier to develop tools that help with these conflicts. So the classic one is, what if you have two redirects on something? It just doesn't work with mixin, but it's not like a fundamental limitation that it can't work. Problem is that we can't easily exchange the tools. So, yeah. But yes, as Karasin said in chat, it's literally called collision handling ASM. That's the entire point of Chasm is to handle collisions, yes.
Yeah, so one of the advantages, you could have like two completely different paradigms. You could have mixin and something else. And they could both apply a transformation that could collide, and you'd get hopefully a nice error message saying who's colliding and why.
All right, thank you for that.
Just to say it again, stick around for 10 more minutes and we'll have our keynote.
Here's a good one. Are there any plans for a dedicated team for writing docs? That's a difficult one. We were actually planning on it, but right now it's still a bit too early. It's a great question. I think it's worth considering. I don't think we have a good answer for it right now. If Oro Armor was here, he'd be able to answer it, I think, but right now we're not 100% sure, but it is a good idea.
Yes, the wiki went live, I think, 2 days ago or just yesterday, I'm not totally sure. And we've been talking about if we want to make a team for it. So hey, if you want to volunteer and lead us, we can definitely need people, even if it doesn't make a dedicated team.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do one more question and then we'll take a break. will QSL be monolithic like Fabric API?
I mean, saying that Fabric API is monolithic is wrong. Because Fabric API isn't monolithic. It appears monolithic because there's a fat jar that almost everyone uses, and or you mean modular? QSL is already modular. We just take the modularity differently. Because instead of having every modules in a flat structure, we made libraries. So there's the core library, there's the data library, there's the block library, etc., 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 and those contains modules. Inside a Minecraft instance, you won't see the libraries, but the libraries means that we are trying to make so the modules don't depend too much on other modules of other libraries, except some exceptions in the core library. The idea is you could, if you don't need a library in your mod, you can just not use it. And the idea in the future is to have in the build tools a way to automatically detect which module is used to construct a better mod manifest, so it only declares dependencies on the actually used modules.
All right.
So, yeah, modularity.
Thanks for that, Aurora. We're out of time, unfortunately. Thanks everyone for coming to the meeting. We do these every couple of weeks, usually on Discord, if you want to listen to more of these. We also record our meetings on Discord it's basically a podcast. You can find it on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts if you want to listen to the older ones or if you missed the later ones. We're going to take a break now. The next